today's demonstration, we will utilize Informatica Cloud Services to subset and mask a production Salesforce.com organization to populate an existing Salesforce.com Sandbox environment. As you can see, I'm logged in under a production Salesforce.com user. For this scenario, we will subset and mask contacts and their related cases. Let's review a few contacts. There are quite a few contacts. Let's take a look at the first contact, Tim Barr, in more detail. When looking at the details of the contact information, we see there's lots of sensitive data. When we subset, we better ensure that we mask the sensitive data before populating the sandbox environment. Contacts are also related to cases, so when we subset contacts, we should bring over the related cases as well. By looking at the cases object, we can see that there are two and only two cases corresponding to the contact Tim Barr. Now let's review the Salesforce.com Sandbox organization. A developer requested us to populate the sandbox with some sample production data. As you see, there are no contacts or cases objects in the sandbox organization. Now let's log on to Informatica Cloud and review the Test Data Management data masking application. Let's review the existing task called Subset and Mask Contacts with Cases. Informatica Cloud has a straightforward wizard-based approach. On this first step of the wizard, we put in the definition of the task. The second step of the task is to specify everything about the source, including the connection and the objects you want to mask and subset. In this particular case, let's pick the Salesforce.com production organization that we looked at earlier. For the objects, the developer specified he wanted contacts and cases. Let's choose those objects and do a quick preview of the data to make sure this is what we wanted. Now let's move on to the Target tab, where we simply specify the target connection, in this case the Salesforce.com Sandbox environment. That was it for the target. Now let's move on to the Data Subset tab. This is where you specify the filter criteria that you want to move to the target environment. In this case, let's only move contact information for Tim Barr. Now let's move on to the Masking tab. If you recall, there was quite a bit of sensitive information on the contacts object. Let's review a few of the masking rules that I already have assigned to some of the sensitive fields, like birth date and email. Some of the rules provide configuration options. Like for this rule, random date, we can configure to blur the existing date by a few years. As you can see, there's two different options for email, simple and advanced. In this case, let's just pick the simple option. Let's review a few more of the out-of-the-box masking rules and then move on to schedule the job for execution. On the Schedule tab, you simply specify the agent which will execute the subset and masking, as well as additional parameters like when you want to schedule the job. For this particular one, let's start this now. From Informatica Cloud, we can also monitor the execution. In this particular case, if you recall, there was one contact and two cases for a total of 3 records. Now let's log on to the Salesforce.com Sandbox organization and review the data that was moved. For the contact Tim Barr, he has most obviously been masked, as well as the phone number, fax number, and email address. With masked production data, developers can now configure new objects, test new reports, and do this efficiently and proficiently, and not be concerned about sharing personally identifiable information. In addition, besides moving over the contact information, we also moved over the cases, and this is what we call relationship reconciliation. So the contacts and cases are not moved in isolation, but rather relinked once they're moved to the target environment. Now let's do a quick review from the cases object just to see that there's two cases and they're both related back to the same contact. As you can see with Informatica Cloud Test Data Management Data Masking application, you can simply and easily subset and mask Salesforce.com applications to ensure that developers and testers have accurate and realistic yet safe information to utilize in their daily tasks.